Hello, good morning, students. Today I'm going to start a new chapter, that is inheritance. The name of the chapter is Inheritance Extending Classes. So if you have your textbook, you flip on to chapter 6, okay, and then I'll start with the introduction part. Okay, so in order to understand inheritance concept very nicely, okay, you need to go back, you need to study the classes and objects and constructors and destructors uh, chapter nicely. Okay, you need to understand what is classes and objects and constructors and destructors. Okay, otherwise you will face difficulty in understanding inheritance concept. Okay, so in this introduction part we'll be discussing about the definition of inheritance, okay, the advantage of inheritance, and okay, I will be discussing about base class and derived class, the definition of base class and derived class. So what is inheritance? So inheritance is defined as the act of deriving a new class from an existing class. The new class inherits the members of the existing class, that is the data members and member functions of the existing class. Okay, so if you see the program that is related with inheritance, okay, you'll see that it is very much similar to classes and object. The way you declare a class in inheritance also, you'll see the same thing. Only thing is that you'll see multiple classes being used, okay, and then you will also see that constructors being declared. Okay, so definition of inheritance, okay, as it is written. Okay, so like I said, okay, go through classes and object nicely and constructors and destructors nicely. Okay, so now let's discuss about the advantage of inheritance. Okay, one main purpose or advantage of inheritance is code reusability. Okay, we are able to reuse same code again and again, which actually shortens the program. Okay, so what happens is that the derived class, okay, is able to use the members of the base class again. Okay, so what happens is that because of this, you don't need to write down uh, the members again. Okay, and because of this, it shortens the program code, and you are able to read the program much more easily. Okay, so that is the main advantage of the inheritance. Okay, so just like function overloading and constructor overloading, where you use the same member function name with different parameters, okay, in the classes and object and constructor and destructor. Okay, now in inheritance you'll see that you find in the program multiple classes being used. Now how is it possible, right? So how do you differentiate one class from the other class? Okay, so for that, the class is given a name, okay, such as like base class and derived class. So what is a base class? Now a base class, it is actually a normal class declaration. Okay, so a normal class declaration is a base class, and the topmost hierarchy of the class, the topmost class is the base class. It is also called the parent class. So the other classes that you see, okay, that is used in the program, they are called as derived class. So the class, this class, it inherits the data members and the member functions of the base class. So that's why it is called as derived class, deriving from the parent class. Okay, so the derived class is also called as child class. Okay, I failed to mention that in the presentation. Okay, so a derived class, it inherits the members of the child class, but at the same time a derived class will have its own members which is different or which is unique from the parent class or from the base class. Okay, so there will be some similarity between the base class and the derived class. That is why the derived class is inherited from the base class because of some similar properties or functions. Okay, but keep in mind that the derived class will always have its own members, okay, in addition to inheriting the base class members. Okay, so to understand the concept of base class and the derived class better, okay, uh, let's look at this diagram. Okay, so in this diagram you'll see that the base class, it is also called as the parent class. Okay, so this is the root class, and then the derived class, okay, it is called as the child class. So the derived class, it inherits all the properties from the base class. So if you see that in the base class, okay, you have the base uh, class data members and the member functions. So it has been marked as A, okay, base member A. Now in the derived class, it has its own members, that is derived member B. Okay, along with that, it has the base members A. So the derived class automatically inherits, okay, the members of the base class. Okay, next, so how do we declare the base class and the derived class, or how do we declare the derived class from the base class? Okay, so in order to derive a class from another class, we use the colon. Okay, in declaring of the derived class, okay, so the format is as it is shown. Okay, class derived class name, so that derived class name is the name of the derived class, okay, followed by the colon, and then the visibility mode, or in this case it is the access specifier. As you have seen in the previous chapters, okay, we have three access specifiers: public, private, protected, right? And as I've said that when we come to inheritance, we'll be using the protected access specifier also, right? So this protected access specifier was specially created for this inheritance chapter. Okay, now keep in mind that out of all the chapters, okay, inheritance is the most important. Okay, inheritance, the concept of inheritance is most important because of the code reusability. Okay, and then so you have the base class name, so that means the base class name. Okay, so the derived class belongs inherited from the base class name, so using that colon, it signifies that. And then within the curly braces, opening and closing curly braces, you have the statements, okay, the compound statements that belongs to them. You have the members of the, sorry, you have the members of the derived class. Okay, so you have the new data members, you have the new member functions that belongs to the derived class. Okay, now automatically the members of the class, the base class, will be taken by the derived class, but it will not be shown, it will not be displayed. Okay, now the access specifier by default, it is private. Okay, so that we'll discuss in the following presentation. Okay, so that will be all for today. Okay, in the next class we'll discuss about the access specifier, the visibility mode, and then how to declare derived classes. Okay, and then we'll see a program. Okay.